back to Vegas Tips and Tricks with part 2 of our two-part special on airport transportation tips in Las Vegas. Last week we talked about some of the free hotel shuttles, the public transportation using the wax bus, and also the old-fashioned airport shuttles. Because those are three of the least expensive options for most folks. Today we're going to talk about 3 more options in airport transportation. These are each a little more expensive in most cases than the ones we spoke about last week. We're going to start out today talking about the ride-sharing services. And unless you've been living under a rock for the past couple of years, I'm sure you've heard about Uber and Lyft, and most of you have probably used Uber and Lyft at some point. They're in cities all over the world and have become a popular way to get from point A to point B without spending an arm and a leg. They've been in Las Vegas for a few years now, and they will pick you up at the airport, although it is a little bit of a hike. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons of the ride-sharing services. Once you get them set up, and they operate through an app on your phone, there's an Uber app, there's a Lyft app. They look very similar, they operate very similarly. Once you set them up, wherever you are, in this case at the airport, you're going to go ahead and log in, and you're going to tell them you need a ride. It's going to more or less pinpoint your location. The GPS is not flawless on these things, and it can be a little shaky in large buildings and with a lot of large buildings around. So sometimes it doesn't get your location exactly right. But that shouldn't be important because the airport pickup is in one single location. So you're going to go ahead and tell them where you want to go. You can type in your hotel. It'll prompt it and say, hey, you want to go to the Flamingo Hotel and Casino? And you will set that. You will ask for a pickup. There are some options. You can get a larger vehicle if you have a larger group of people. There's an option for a shared ride, which can save you a little money if you don't mind sharing with someone else. And then you go, hey, I want a ride. And it will look for a driver who is signed into their Uber app and is currently working. They will come and pick you up at the airport, and they will transport you to their hotel. You might say, well, that sounds a little complicated. Well, getting it set up initially can be, but for most folks it's not too difficult if you're used to technology. And you don't have to mess around with money because you are basically paying them through the app. You can use something like PayPal, or you can have it set up with one of your credit cards. Whatever way you want to do it, and no muss, no fuss. The other thing about it, this is a big winner, tends to be cheaper than taking a cab. From my experience, I would say between 25 and 50% cheaper. That's a big advantage. When you're on vacation, you want to spend your money on fun things. You don't want to spend your money on, transportation. So unless you can get a friend who lives in Las Vegas to pick you up in their car, it's about the most comfortable private form of transportation you're going to get, and a very affordable one. So what's the downside? Well, obviously it's kind of a new technology. There's people that are a little bit nervous about it. Some people aren't comfortable with that technology. The ride-sharing pickup area is a little bit of a hike from the luggage pickup area in the airport. If you watch my video from a couple of weeks back on the Las Vegas airport, I can show you exactly how to get to the ride pickup, but it is a little bit of a hike. So if you have some mobility issues, you're dragging a lot of luggage around, it may not be something you want to do. Of course, some people are a little bit uncomfortable about the idea that they're getting into a car with a stranger. Be cautious. When you do set up a ride, it will tell you the name of the driver. That may not be that important, but it'll tell you the make, model of their car, the color of the vehicle, and the license plate number. Make sure all that matches up before you get into a vehicle with anybody, okay? Because someone could clearly impersonate a driver if they wanted to, if they had nefarious purposes. So be cautious, but keep in mind that, you don't know the cab driver, you don't know the bus driver, you don't know the shuttle driver, you don't know those people either, and you're getting in the vehicle with them. Not only that, but the ride is tracked. They know who picked up who, when, where, and where they went. So I think it's perfectly safe. You just have to kind of get over that little hump in your mind. So Uber or Lyft, great option, and particularly if you're a new customer of either, typically you can get some very good ride credits, and from time to time they'll email out some special offers for 50% off rides for a week period here and there. So again, very inexpensive. The other negative on this one though is when it's very busy, when there are special events going on, the Uber and Lyft apps respond to that by what they call peak pricing. And a ride that might cost you $10 normally might cost you $20, $30, $40, $50 during a big fight or some kind of a major concert event. So keep an eye on that. It will estimate the cost for you so you can see it up front. And there may be times in that situation where it would be cheaper to just get a cab. And that's our second option today, is the good old-fashioned taxi cab. The great advantage about this is it's quick and easy. You get to baggage claim, you walk out the door, and there's a lineup of cabs. Now sometimes there's a lineup of people, but that line moves very quickly. Of everything in that airport, I think that the taxi cab line is about the most organized thing you're going to find, which is not to say other things aren't organized, but you may get out there and see what looks like hundreds of people and think you're going to be there for hours. Don't think I've ever been there more than 10-15 minutes. So it's quick, it's easy, you get your cab, you're on the way to your hotel or wherever your destination is. And again, it's right there. The downside, of course, is it tends to be more expensive than every other option we've talked about so far. And while most cab drivers, just like most bus drivers and Uber drivers and anybody else we can talk about, are honest people trying to make an honest living and are not going to rip you off, there is unfortunately a reputation in Las Vegas in particular for drivers that will sometimes take advantage of particularly less knowledgeable travelers and kind of, as they say, long haul you. So that, I think, is one of the things that has turned a lot of people, a lot of repeat visitors, off about cabs. Again, I don't think that's the rule. I think that's the exception, but it's happened. It's happened to me, and I suspect people that have been to Vegas a number of times, it's happened to them as well. So be aware of that. Some of the cabs are not as nice as some of the private cars you get picked up in, although I have seen improvements in recent years. So I think the cab companies are kind of trying to respond to the competition. The other thing to remember here, again, the price, it may be $15, $25 if you're at a strip hotel. You may be looking at $25, $30 or more to get to your hotel downtown, and possibly even more if you're far off the strip. So it gets expensive. You almost rent a car for a day for the cost of one cab ride. So it's expensive. Just one tip here: if you do decide to take a cab and you're staying somewhere on the strip, ask the taxi driver to please use the surface streets, or use Swenson. That's the street that goes north out of the airport and will lead you to Tropicana and Paradise and the Strip and Flamingo and all of those roads. Because the biggest sort of long haul problem is the fact that the taxi cab drivers take the tunnel, hence what some people call tunneling, and use it because it's quick. They take the airport connector tunnel onto the 215, onto the I-15, they hit the freeway and zippity-doo off. You're at your hotel. But it's a much longer trip in terms of miles, and since you get charged by the mile when you're in a cab, they end up costing you more money. It can even be quicker, but and if that's important to you, then hey, knock yourself out. It's $5 or $10. I wouldn't let it ruin your vacation. But in general, if you let them know that you kind of know what's going on, they're much less likely to be tempted to take advantage of you. So there's that. If you're staying downtown, I don't think it makes a lot of difference. I think it's definitely quicker if you're going downtown, and I doubt with all the wait time that it's much more expensive to just take the freeway, so don't worry about it. Okay, one final thing we're going to touch on here today is the limo. You might have thought to yourself, well, I'll never be able to afford to take a limo to my hotel, but yeah, if you think about it, you might be able to. There are two times that a limo can be a pretty good deal. One, obviously, if it's a special occasion, okay? you splurge, all right? You know, you're there with a significant other that you want, you know, did want to do something nice for them, or a family member, or a special event such as a birthday or an anniversary, and you want to celebrate. Hey, get a limo. You might be surprised. The cost of airport transportation from a limo can be, you know, as little as $65, $70 and up. If you have enough people in your party and you start dividing that up, well, that's not that much more expensive than if everybody took an airport shuttle, and it's sure a lot nicer. If you book in advance, you can make all sorts of special arrangements. You know, maybe a rose for the lady, a little champagne. You can arrange to stop at the Las Vegas sign, or stop at a liquor store and stock up for your trip. And of course, then you get the excitement of having someone greet you in the hotel with your name on their little iPad. Used to be a card, but mostly a tablet of some sort now. So that's half the fun, isn't it? Once in a while, if you do get to the airport and it's not terribly busy, and you kind of shuffle off in the same direction as the airport shuttles, which is like doors 7 through 13 on one side of baggage claim. The taxis are on the other side. There will be limo companies there. You can make arrangements at that time. Once in a while, you can make a deal. You're probably not going to get wined and dined and taken up and down the strip or anything, but if you just want to get to your hotel, you might be able to make a deal with these guys. So I did that once with some friends, and I can't remember what we paid. Of course, it's been a few years ago, but it was very reasonable. So keep that in mind. They are there, and you can rent anywhere from a nice town car all the way up into a huge stretch limo. So, you know, obviously when you start talking about big stretch limos and, you know, trips up and down the strip, then it gets to be a little more expensive. But hey, it's worth it once. You deserve it, don't you? You've earned it. You're going to spend a lot of money in Las Vegas anyway, so you might as well, you know, come in looking good. So again, obviously the downside is it's expensive, and, you know, unless less money is no object to you, a limo is probably not what you're going to do every time you come to Las Vegas, but it's certainly something worth doing once, or worth doing for a special occasion. I hope you've enjoyed this series. I hope you've learned something from this series. We're going to continue with more Vegas tips next week. I'm not going to tell you what we're going to talk about, but next Saturday we'll have another show on Vegas tips. Just a few weeks from headed to Las Vegas myself, so hopefully I'll learn more new things that I can pass along to each one of you while I'm there. But I want to thank all of you for watching, liking, and commenting. I appreciate all of your feedback, well, almost all of your feedback, and it makes me feel like I'm doing something and accomplishing something. So until next time, I hope you have a great week and a lucky week, and we'll see you soon.